Has Russia resorted to sending its sailors into combat in Ukraine? And just why are they pulling the crew off of Russia's Navy flagship? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this pretty insane story. Okay, so the Kremlin has reportedly pulled sailors off of its only aircraft carrier and the flagship of the Russian Navy, the Admiral Kuznetsov, and has sent them to Ukraine to fight and die. Now, one of the things that is, there's a whole bunch about this story, actually, that's pretty insane. The first is that an open source analyst named Molt Lassen reported that there's some of the 1,500 person crew in the Kuznetsov has been sent to the front, right? Russia actually formed a new frigate mechanized battalion using Navy personnel. It seems like they created a legal fiction designating it as a frigate, but actually turning it into a mechanized battalion. They were initially sent to the Kharkiv border and then have moved to the Pokrovsk front. They're considered the 3rd Battalion of the 25th MMR. But this is the thing. There's a bunch of these closed Facebook groups of parents searching for missing soldiers, right? In this case, a soldier reportedly hasn't been seen since at least July. Right? You have another soldier who, again, reportedly has been missing for weeks. You even have someone who said, oh, they were literally like, hey, this person was in this frigate mysteriously, but then, and was trained as an electronic warfare systems crewman, and then they were transferred into the Avdiivka direction. So this is both very strange and also very troubling for a number of reasons. Again, okay, let's talk about why. First, the Russian military, as a general policy, has its military split into two sort of groups of people. Specialists who have valuable combat skills and competencies. They generally are put in less dangerous roles relative to the assault troops. And assault troops are generally those who are offered huge salaries, recruited from oftentimes economically destitute areas. They are given very limited training, sometimes as little as a few days, and they are performing some of the highest risk assault missions, right? So an artillery crew, don't get me wrong, casualties are high no matter who you are in the Russian military, but an artillery crew is going to be behind the lines. They're going to be operating these gun batteries. They are going to be not sent on these missions, right? A drone operator, for example, an experienced drone operator, also going to stay behind the lines, not going to conduct these high casualty assaults. In fact, it literally made the Russian news when a veteran drone operator was sent on one of these assaults, which is just sort of the topsy-turvy world of Russia, where it's not a problem that there's 100% casualty missions. It's a problem when a drone operator gets sent on them. That's what makes people outraged. So the fact that they have these highly specialist crew, again, Russia's only aircraft carrier, the Kuznetsov, and that this crew was assigned to a frontline unit and almost certainly sent on one-way missions. Now, the thing to point out is that the Russian Navy's largest warships, right, a carrier especially, requires a highly trained crew. And they, again, as we pointed out with this post, one of them was like a specialist in electronic warfare. This is something that is a very important role in naval operations, but it's also an important role in ground operations. You would think that a specialist in electronic warfare would be relatively easy to pivot to ground electronic warfare. Again, jammers, radar systems, a whole bunch of other stuff. But the fact is, the Russian military said, listen, we know we trained you to handle these systems on our ships, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it for our sort of meat grinder bureaucracy to reassign you to a job you're going to do better. It's easier for us to just scoop you up and send all of you in these high casualty missions. And eventually, at some point, the Kuznetsov will get a new crew. And the reason they can say that is because the Kurtsadov is, well, decrepit. They describe it as rickety. It's a 40-year-old carrier, Russia's only operational carrier. And it's been in dry dock for literally 8 years. Because we could take a look here. Well, actually, before we take a look at the Kurtsadov's questionable service history, we are going to, I want to mention that if you feel like you just don't have what you need to get the job done, you don't need to recruit highly trained soldiers into a one-way mission. You might just need a little extra caffeine. That's right, Strike Gum. It's the energy drink alternative. 0 sugar, 90 milligrams of caffeine, 100 milligrams alpha GPC in every single piece. This pack contains 5 energy drinks worth of caffeine. So if you're somebody who's tired of spending $5 at a gas station on an energy drink, or you're someone who literally can't carry around an energy drink, you're like a new parent, a construction worker, a cop, right? I was an MP. I get it. Could I show up to a call hauling around a Red Bull? No, of course not. It's literally not safe, right? I have friends who are firefighters. I have friends who are arborists who say, what am I going to do? Sip an energy drink while wielding a chainsaw? It's crazy. That's why I created Strike Gum. It's for you guys so that you can get the energy you need when you need it, right? Without having to take a break, go off and drive to a gas station. No, you're here to get the job done, and that's who we're here for. So we've got subscribe and save now. So if you know you're a Strike Gum fan, if you have taken the Strike Gum pill, so to speak, not literally, of course, these are pieces of gum, but if you're proverbially a Strike Gum, taking the Strike Gum pill, then you know that you want to subscribe and save, right? For all orders over $40, it's going to be free shipping in addition to the subscribe and save benefit. So it's a no-brainer. Go to strikegum.com. You can also find us on Amazon. The link is in the description. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about. The reason Russia pulled these guys out, ultimately, is because they weren't doing anything, right? And while they were highly trained, the Kurtsadov is Russia's, again, only heavy aircraft carrier. It is 45 years old, built in 82 to 91, and it was basically operational, right? It had to get overhauled in 98, right? And then, again, it had some repairs in 97 and was back in action in 98. And then it was basically on continuous deployment since then until 2017. In 2017, Russia said, listen, we're going to keep this thing floating. So we are going to put this thing into a modernization program. Give it another 25 years of service life. Very common. All this is normal naval operations. But here's the thing. Here's what happened, right? What happened was nothing. In fact, there was so much grift, graft, corruption, laziness, poor planning. The Russian bureaucracy really just outdid itself, right? So many people were embezzling funds, stealing materials, not showing up to work, just absolutely idiotic planning of this gigantic overhaul that it took literally 2 years to get the repairs underway. But there, again, was just delay after delay. And it means that literally in 8 years, this ship has not left dry dock. So for 8 years, where has this crew trained? What have they done? It's not clear. It's not clear, right? They may be on the ship and just kind of screwing around, training, maybe helping with the repairs. It's not clear what they've been doing. But I want to just express this as kind of an illustration of the level of corruption and ineffectiveness of the Russian military in general. Again, this is their flagship. This is their pride. This is something that is meant as a symbol, right? There's only a handful of countries on Earth that can have seaworthy aircraft carriers. And it's generally, I'm going to say, countries with high levels of corruption generally cannot effectively maintain the aircraft carriers. It's too big an operation, right? So that means, let's say we can find aircraft carriers by country, right? So as you can see, the United States, we have 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. And the U.S. Navy also has 9 amphibious assault ships that can carry up to 20 fighter jets, which is not trivial. China has 1 and is building 3 aircraft carriers and hoping to have 2 more with the keels laid by 2030. Actually, in 2020, this year, China's newest carrier, the Fujian, began its sea trials. So China, number 2. India has 2 aircraft carriers, which was purchased from the British. The British can maintain their own aircraft carrier. France has the Charles de Gaulle. Italy has 2 sort of light, what we would consider those amphibious assault ships. Spain has an amphibious assault ship. Japan has some helicopter carriers. But, right, there's a few more. Here we go. Let's see if we can get it here. Come on, Wikipedia. I'm not sure why this is going so slow, right? But what I want to point out is that, again, one of the other countries that seems to have this problem, rest in power Wikipedia, is actually Brazil. Brazil also notoriously has an aircraft carrier that cannot get out of dry dock. And again, it's illustrative of a country that is characterized by extreme levels of corruption, extreme levels of grift and graft. Right? Again, you've got the Sao Paulo was officially scuttled last year. The Brazilians just giving it up. And there's a number of these, a large number of countries have these retired aircraft carriers that they operated, again, maybe during World War II. So again, list of all active aircraft carriers, or sorry, not even active. These are just all of them. But you could see that overwhelmingly, the U.S. Navy is one of the only people still fielding aircraft carriers and still able to perform the requisite maintenance. And let's talk about when the U.S., right? This is another scaling thing. The U.S. has 11 aircraft carriers. So it means that there's always going to be somebody in maintenance. That's part of the idea of having this number of aircraft carriers. But the U.S. had its own maintenance problems in the past, right? The USS George Washington was also almost the exact same thing as the Kurchatov, right? A large aircraft carrier entering its midlife, so to speak, and going through a modernization process, right? That means, of course, that it gets inspected, modernized, upgraded, reinforced, as well as major software and IT upgrades to crew living quarters, a huge, huge effort. And typically, this is expected to take about 4 years. Again, so about half the time that the Kurchatov has been in dry dock. But it's millions of man hours of work, right? They say it's replacing every single valve pump, piping components, tanks, every part of the ship. So again, it takes a serious country and it takes some serious honesty to get it done, right? But George Washington, the USS George Washington, started, again, it's working the same year that the Kurchatov went in. And it was supposed to be a 3-year process ending in 2021. But literally through COVID and a bunch of other issues like supply chain issues, industrial base issues, unexpected repairs, it went 2 years over schedule and ended in 2023. This is one of the things I talk about, is that, yeah, the U.S. military has some serious issues, and I have serious gripes with how it runs things. I don't even think we should field 3 aircraft carriers. But when we have this crisis, the U.S. military can get it done, right? We got it done. It took 2 extra years. It took 5 instead of 3. What a bummer. Again, the Kurchatov is at year 8, right? It's at year 8, and it's so far behind schedule that they simply gutted the crew and killed them off. That is how far behind they are. The Russian military is literally like, we should just kill off this crew because by the time we finished refitting this aircraft carrier, we're just going to have time to train up a new set of sailors for this, which is insane when you view it like that. But that is how the Russian military operates. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to James Gerling, Steve Moran, Doug Beck, Alan Knudsen, Bastian Hemmerling, Brian Kelly, Dale McCombs, James Ola, and Henry Roos here, as well as all the folks on combatvetnews.com, all of our lieutenant tier members, and all of our all the members of combatvetnews.com. Thanks, guys. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.